Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with Green White Depths. I wanted to play Green White because I've seen Naya and Abzan do well online, and I always like coming back to Green White just to see what sort of splash makes sense, what's really necessary. And yeah, it's always cool to play around with two colors as well. Makes it a little bit easier on the mana base. Get to play some cool cards like a Saga package just with Shadowspear, and then Maze of Ith. I was going to give like Soul Guide Lantern, but I think like having the extra endurance in the main deck and the ley lines in the board, it's not needed too much. Pit of Offerings is a card that I'm testing here. It's a new card. So Pit of Offerings comes into play tapped, just like Bojuka Bog. And when it comes into play, you get to exile up to 3 target cards from graveyards. It taps for colorless, but also taps for mana of any of the exiled cards' colors, which is cool. So big shout out to Colin, Rascal Coyote. Big fan. This card is pretty cool. Plays around a few things. Reanimate on your creatures, which is nice without exiling your whole yard. Plays around Leyline of Sanctity, which sees play in some of the Ouphe or Spells decks online. Can tap for green potentially as well. Exile a card like that. And yeah, other than like sometimes lands, sometimes like, you know, the dredge, the kind of all-in decks, you're not really wanting to deal with the whole graveyard anyway. So Bog covering that, you know, 3 cards is usually enough. So I'm pretty keen to see how this plays out. Obviously, we also have Echoing Deeps as a card which can copy, which I've been a huge fan of since testing it. It also allows you to cut down on things like the second step. The other card we have is Lush Port, which doesn't work too well with Flagstones because if you get this, you then surveil, and then you fetch again with your, you know, whatever you've got rid of the Flagstones with. So unless your opponent is aggressively wastelanding your Flagstones, you're probably not going to get the surveil value unless you put something into your bin that you really want. So maybe in response to like an Exhume, or you want to land for Ramunap, like you want to find a Wasteland. Maybe there's a world where instead of just finding it off, there's not too many. So we'll see how that goes. And then the board is pretty open. I was wanting to play potentially Aethersworn Canonist over Deafening Silence, as it has more game against Cradle Control and Goblins, but I also feel like there's still a little bit of combo in the format that's just a little bit too quick. So Deafening Silence just being 1 mana helps there, and also not being a creature. I am playing Gaddock Teeg in the main deck just to have some sort of Green Sun's target against combo. You often see Collector Ouphe in that slot, but just want to try out Teeg and see how it performs. One cool thing about Saga, and one cool thing to note when you play it, is, where's the display? There we go. Saga obviously happens after your draw step. So if you do play a Saga version, I'll probably have a end of draw stop on MTGO, because a lot of the time with crop rotation or Night of the Reliquary, you can crop for it at the end of your draw step, get a token, and then in your next phase you'll get another one. So it kind of speeds up the Saga by 1 full turn, which is kind of cool. So that's something to definitely consider. But yeah, just want to see where some of the weaknesses lie. I really wanted to run a library, but obviously only having the swords as removal for Bowmaster is a little bit tough, but we'll see how that goes. Pretty keen to see, yeah, just where some of the rough points are. I have seen Loam in this version as well, so we'll see how Library performs, and definitely take note of when we play Library, what would it have been like if we played Loam that turn instead. Hey Chum, welcome. Hey Past, welcome as well. playing nice gameplay. Very cool. There we go. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a nice Friday or weekend, wherever you live. And hey, YouTube. Yeah, to all of those watching on YouTube, a big thank you for the support. Very much appreciate it. Also very cool to be granted access to the online creator program. Here, not having green mana is a pretty huge setback, and white coming in tapped as well is a pretty easy mulligan. Well, it might just be one of those streams, but we are going to go to 5 here. Okay, not the worst. So there's a few things you can do on a 5. You can try to get some value, or you can try to just go for the combo quite quickly. I do like the thought of play Flagstones, play Mox, pitch Wasteland, Green Suns for Reclaimer, and just try to go that route. And therefore I'm probably dropping the 2/3 drops, which I don't mind. To then have the crop with the Flagstones is nice, because it means that if they have Force, we still just trade 2 for 2, but get 1 back, so it's a 2 for 1. Yeah, I think going for a Reclaimer early is pretty good. Toowoomba is really nice this time of year, 100%. Really nice and just crisp. When I can say the weather is crisp, that's probably my favorite time of the year. Alright, play Flagstones, play Mox. A little bit tough, like, to obviously have the card disadvantage on Model 5, but I think moving towards Reclaimer as soon as possible is where I want to be. All right. Forest. Happy to play the Forest and then move towards Urza's Saga, so let's go end of draw step. The only issue with Saga is that if I do it in my turn, I sadly get rid of the mana of the Flagstone, so I think we just do it now. Happy to get Savannah here. Force. Okay. At least we have 3 mana, which allows us to cast all our big spells. Very happy to see Mentor, as that's probably the one thing we'd be happy to hit with this swords. Double Force. Okay. Yeah, Depths is a pretty sweet deck. Gives you the combo, gives you the mid-range plan. Happy just to deal with this now. I wouldn't mind a Wasteland to take out the Tundra. Yeah, the challenges coming in on Saturday mornings for us is pretty sweet. Much better timing than, I think typically like 10 or 11, maybe 9 or 10 on Saturday nights, and then like 1 AM Sunday mornings, or Monday mornings, I should say. Okay. think it's worth not playing this land and just having an unknown in hand. Opponent could potentially think about Endurance. Triumph's pretty cool. I don't think we have the chokes. No. They are down to 0 cards. So we have a turn here. Okay. I think it is worth playing the land. I also have to think about Saga and Shadowspear as ways to kind of get back into this game as well. Okay. No removal, no cantrip for my opponent, which is nice. The blue-green version of what? I've seen some versions with things like... get back to... with Yavimaya and Submerge, which is kind of cool. Let's see what we draw. We draw Karakas. Okay, so let's go for... Saga. We don't want to block here. So make 1 token. If they allow us to untap, we turn on Sejiri Steppe, which is kind of cool. Hey GB, thanks for the follow. Hope you're doing well. This is also Dryad Arbor, which is pretty sweet. So, equip to the big construct. And now if they try to swords, we do have... I guess they also get a token. Just the one Saga. This is kind of in the slot of the extra depths. I think it's worth saving this. We then have a blocker in the construct, a blocker in the Dryad Arbor. Gain 5, go up to 9. Yeah. Like we could just gain 5, hold up the knight, which I also don't mind. This becomes a 3/3. We also have Echoing Deeps to copy the Saga, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I think I'm actually happy to see how this goes. Mana. Prismatic Ending. Okay, this is definitely worth saving ourselves from. I think here what we do is fetch a Dryad Arbor, trump the Triumph, and then trade with the Mentor. Really hope for like a 2-drop here. I guess here we have Shadowspear and Maze, so we hold up the Knight this turn. I'm also going to play the Windswept because that gives us access to Lush Port. Beanstalk. Ah. Interesting. I guess it doesn't matter. Because now we only have the Maze and they attack with everything. Yeah, block 1 and then Maze. Tough. A decent fight. Decent fight. Okay. I don't mind the Veya. There's nothing that I really like. They are on Mentor and also Triumph, so I kind of like the paths. Endurance can most likely come down. I don't mind dropping a crop either against a blue deck. Karakas. Yeah, I probably don't mind dropping the Karakas. I do want to have the Veils. It could just be Amoxen. It's not really a card that we're not really going too quick against them, and obviously Prismatic Ending's kind of lame. I think this is it. Okay. Happy to keep this start on the Lush. I guess potentially there's a world where Karakas saving your own Teeg is worth having it in the deck. Any sort of land I'll put into the bin. Like that can copy the Saga, but I'm really not looking for that at the moment. Savannah into Teeg, and then the following turn, Saga into Knight. They go for a basic. Probably just trying to get their mana in play that can't be hit by Wasteland. Just set up a little bit. But yeah, turn 2 Teeg, turn 3 Knight with Saga means turn 4 we can activate the Saga. Chose to not shuffle. Also happy just to 6 these turns, save some time. Thankfully, no. That's pretty interesting. I'm still pretty happy just to go with Knight here. Am I happy to trade Teeg with Containment Priest? Probably not at this stage. Okay. We get to Wasteland the Trop, and then just hold up Saga. I guess now we get to Wasteland Trop, Saga, and also play Reclaimer. Ooh, if I get Yav, I can then sack the Saga to Knight, which is kind of cool. But then getting Yav also gives them green back. So I think I'd rather just get a Windswept and fetch. Just to make it a super big creature. Safekeeper is also pretty interesting here. I actually don't mind Safekeeper, especially to protect the Teeg from like sword. Reclaimer has the advantage of being able to sack the Saga. So definitely a few options. But honestly, on this sort of, I don't think we're even making a creature next turn. I think we're just getting Shadowspear equipping and attacking with the Knight. And then just protect it with Safekeeper and Teeg. Wow, no attacks with the Mentor. That's really interesting. I feel like if we did double block, they would be happy to trade the Mentor for one of these, but obviously not. Okay, that's always pretty interesting. I still like our plan. Float a mana. Get the Shadowspear. Equip to the Knight. Play the Maze. Attack. Do you want to set a stop? An end of damage. Untap it. And play a Reclaimer. Safekeeper also allowing us to just to throw away the lands potentially and get in with Knight is pretty sweet. Trying to think what they could have. Like Safekeeper alongside Teeg. Like maybe Uro to gain some life. Ooh, Dress Down. There we go. Dress Down's actually quite good. So obviously if we sack a land and give protection right now, it then loses it under Dress Down, so we kind of just have to 6 here. Dress Down's actually a really good card here. It's probably the card that I find the most trouble against, because usually Teeg or Thalia puts your opponents in spots where it's just a little bit too hard. But I think even by dealing with the Teeg there, it's just going to be, the Knight's going to be too good. Like, I don't think they have the ability to attack, potentially. Hey, Strass, welcome. Hope you're doing well. How did you go? Hey, DJ, welcome. Hope you're doing well. So they can block with 2, but we just get to, yeah, run over them, which is pretty nice. We don't even have to show anything. Honestly, could even attack with the Safekeeper. Yeah, because we just sack and response. Very cool. I think I will just keep the Karakas mainly for Teeg just to see how it goes. Seeing lots of Delver again, play the Fury version. Very cool. I do like the Fury version. Have you tried out Bombardiers? I really liked it, but at the same time I played a really small sample size of 2 leagues. And like I can see the Christmas land of, like, you know, attack with Bombardiers, second main phase. If they didn't block, you get to then Fury and obviously throw Fury. But I feel like that just doesn't come up as much as you really think it would. But I did enjoy it, especially for like a little bit like Chromox. If you get like a mid to late game Mana Dork or something like Collector Ouphe against Elves, you get to throw it, which is pretty sweet. Also, the Menace with Exalted just gives you a quick threat. Having Haste as well is nice. Obviously, like, Initiative isn't seeing too much play, but being able to steal Initiative. A few little things. It's tough as well being a 3-drop. Like, Fable is another great 3-drop, which I know you like, and I've definitely seen the advantages of as well. That you get to a stage where there's just, like, a lot of good 3-drops. But I guess Bombardiers allows you to play a bunch of Mana Dorks and then have some sort of use for them. Because you can even do things like get Exalted first on attack and then sack before blocks, which is pretty sweet. I don't know if you've seen this card, but I really like it. Colin, Rascal Yote? I always forget their name. Picked it up. I'm trying it over Bog, because I do like that it targets the cards in graveyards, so it plays around Leyline, which of course Bog targets the player, which is a small thing, but like sometimes we play against Ouphe and they bring in Leylines every now and then. But I like that it like allows you to get rid of reanimate targets in your graveyard potentially without getting rid of your whole graveyard. It can give you other colors than black, which is pretty cool. So Pit's pretty sweet. What do we see? What do we see? We did see Beans, so maybe Force. I kind of like Teeg as a way to answer Beans in a way, because Teeg just allows you to Obviously stop them from playing stuff. 30 seconds, heaps of time. But yeah, there are going to be times where I think like probably lands is where you want to get rid of everything in the graveyard, not just a few things. So we'll see how that goes. Hey Charlotte Legacy League, thank you very much. Hey Boyd, very cool to see you. Have a sweet new card for you for Depths when you want to play it. I think we're just going to run it back. I'm thinking about 4s and potentially... yeah, I think we're just going to run this back. I do like that Liberator. Oh, okay. Turn 1 Acceleration, turn 2 Library, and then we also just have the combo, which is nice. So we get to go Windswept, Dryad Arbor, Stage, Library, and then even have the Green Suns for Safekeeper potentially. Not a great answer to Mentor, but otherwise we're pretty happy. Lumbering Mega Sloth, I think it is. Yeah, there you go, Boyd. That's it. Grafdigger's Cage. Okay, well that kind of changes things. Okay. That is fine. Okay, well, I guess Dryad Arbor got the call up, so that makes sense. I am playing the Mega Sloth on paper, yeah. I played Naya on Wednesday night, but I do like the thought of moving towards Turbo for when Boyd isn't in and borrowing the deck. Because Mega Sloth is just a nice plan B. Let's get Lush. I don't know if you've seen these lands, Boyd. So these are dual lands. They come into play tapped, but when they come into play, you get to surveil. So you get to look at the top. If you like it, you get to keep it. If not, you put it into your graveyard. I think for now we're okay. I kind of do want it because if the library doesn't survive, we have 0 mana, tap mana, summoning sick mana. So I do kind of want it. Pretty cool in like reanimation decks. You can obviously try to put like a Grizzlebrand or a Troll into the graveyard to then reanimate. You can do some cool things like with the trigger on the stack, you can brainstorm. So you draw, you put 2 back, and then the card on top you know is going to go into the graveyard. So like, I thought maybe blue-black Reanimator would have made a bit of a comeback. But it seems that blue-black Reanimator is just scam now, so what do I know? Yeah, it's pretty much scam with Atraxa. I believe it also plays Archon of Cruelty, just as one-ofs. This feels like Prismatic. Okay. Veil's kind of nice. I'm going to take this Straw Step off. Pretty happy to play the fetch. Next turn we can depths. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Tracks are just being... I guess Atraxa not drawing the cards is pretty great in a Bowmaster world. Because even on Wednesday we had a point where our opponent went to Grizzlebrand and play and we had Bowmaster, so it's pretty much pay 14, draw 7 cards, which is pretty tough. Okay. Really want to work towards Savannah. Really want to work towards Safekeeper. Obviously these Green Suns being turned off is tough. Reclaimer. Okay. I don't mind starting with Reclaimer. Free Strider Lookout. I have No idea what that card is. But here we go. No cards were found. After this game, I'll give it a look. Echoing Deeps as well is interesting because you can copy any land. I haven't seen anything too spicy from them, so I don't think it's going to matter. I also don't mind just playing the Dryad Arbor out here. They didn't end step swords, which is kind of cool. Maybe they want to mentor first. But to be fair, they're down to 3 cards, so... I am going to Veil in response. It means they can't bounce our stuff with Teferi. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black. And even if the last 2 cards are force, they draw 1 card, bounce, draw a card. But if they bounce 1, then the other one just gets there, which is nice. I guess they could bounce their own Beanstalk, but they're not going to. But now having Reclaimer with Sejiri Steppe is pretty cool. If we get to untap here. We do. Wow. Oh, another Veil. Not the greatest. As Tef is on the board, but I don't mind taking out the Savannah here, making this a 3/4. Seeing if they float any mana. They do. We'll then change phase. Nothing. I think we just send both at Teferi. I could also see just Dryad Arbor Teferi go to 4. Hold up Reclaimer. Two cards they floated. I don't mind trying to get Teferi over 2 turns, but I also like holding up Reclaimer, so I think we will just 1 for 1. I think end step try to get rid of the Lush. And then we can copy it with Echoing Deeps to keep getting some value. Force. Okay. All right. There is a world where I want to get rid of the Dryad Arbor, just because it's a little bit easier for my opponent to deal with. But it's also a land that can attack the Teferi, so... Step. Trigger. Gonna get pro-white. Nice, okay. Guess they could have Dress Down as well? No. Okay. At least if they put like an Uro into the bin, they can't cast it. I assume they're not playing Uro, just looking at the mana base. Unlicensed Terse. That's annoying. But it also means they only have 1 card left, which makes me a little pretty happy. I would actually love them to have no cards in hand. Makes it a lot easier to know what we have to play around. Ooh, Murktide, okay. Well, I guess we still get to kill the Teferi here. They also draw 2 cards off the Murktide, which is disgusting. I guess that's another card where probably Bojuka Bog would be best served. So I think he will go Echoing Deeps. Copy Step, give pro white, attack the Teferi, and then just hold up Reclaimer. Oh, it's in the bin, isn't it? It is in the bin. Okay. That's me. Hey, Ben. Respectfully, of course. I think then it's just Lush, unfortunately. See if we can find a sword. Maze. That kind of does it. Now we're in a bit of an awkward spot. Honestly, as well, the step line doesn't work because they could activate, they could crew the hearse. No, because they have to tap it first and then crew it. Okay. Yeah, sadly, I think we're just passing. I could throw both into Teferi, but I'm not that keen on Teferi, so... Should have read Echoing as well. That's a big one. This could just be another Murktide. Yeah. That's a tough one. But we can try to come back. I probably should have thought more about the Force of Vigors. Great hand. Happy to keep this. Turn 1 Reclaimer. Turn 2 Wasteland and Swords potentially. Oof, okay. Probably an Echo style deck. Oh, Beseech. Okay. I guess we can see if they go for a Beseech line with Guy's Will. Do they just go for tendrils? Yeah. Tough. Ley lines fails. Doorkeeper is interesting because it does shut off Chrome Mox. Swords are an easy card. Karakas, Maze, Spear, Library. Ramunap usually a little bit too slow. Knights. Probably Saga. 26 lands with 3 Mox and still fine. This is pretty much it. I don't mind this thing. We have double Veil. Opponent goes to 6. Also, my headphones died, so the music goes off. But they'll be back. I actually got a new mic. Heyo. I just got it's a Shure MV7, I believe. Yes. Shure MV7. All right. I could lead on the Windswept to go and get Lush, but I don't have another green-white land other than Lush, so I don't mind just playing the Savannah. I think a response to this was just casting the Veil and then allowing. Ooh, Force of Vigor is quite nice here. Ooh, we also get to do something cool here. So Chrome Mox comes into play and then there's an ETB effect. So what we get to do is hit both of these now before they get to tap them for mana. And then next turn we have Doorkeeper, potentially. If we draw Wasteland, we get to play Mox and Wasteland. Oh! Haha! Nice. Just to shut off any additional Chrome Mox. Doorkeeper is quite cool. But at the same time, we do need to find a third land for their Knights now, just to keep that pressure rolling. I think on the draw, we're going to mulligan quite aggressively for Echo. Sorry, for Leyline because of the Echo lines. And also things like Beseech into Gaia's Will. I'm not sure if that's still a strategy post-board. Nice. A little bit of a fair play, but there's not too much else we can do. Having the night open's quite cool. I think the best draw is probably Green Suns, as it gives us access to Teeg and also Ouphe. Teeg probably what I want to move towards. It's tough because both of them can be done by just playing artifacts, playing spells, and then Grape Shot off Burning Wish. They play Boseiju as a green source. Interesting. Well, that's pretty good as well. Especially after they played the Boseiju. I also think here it's probably... I could get... Yeah, I think Wasteland here is fine. I could try to... No, I think Knight's fine. Because this turn, I guess next turn they have to deal with both Deafening Silence and also combo off after playing one of their answers for Deafening Silence. This also means a fetch off the top is... A fetch off the top is lethal. Because we can Wasteland ourselves. We have 7/7s, that's 14, 15. Interesting. Well, you're not going to have the mana to do that, unfortunately. Crop does it as well. Did we just get the... Leave them with nothing? Nice. That's always pretty cool. So yeah, I don't think we changed anything. I think we're just running it back and being a lot more aggressive on the leyline openers. Yeah, see this has turn 1 Doorkeeper, but that's not enough against this sort of deck. Doorkeeper is more of like, it does hit some things, but it's not worth keeping a hand for. This is really good because we have access to Mana Denial plus Leyline to slow things down plus an actual threat. So I think here we're going to keep, and I want to put back a land. I do like that we get to go Leyline plus Mox plus Wasteland. I think it might just be the Windswept because Stage opens us up to just getting the combo, which could close the game out quicker. Double Wasteland as well is obviously very strong. And by having the Mox, we already have the Windswept. So I guess we have to drop one of these lands to the Mox anyway. So I think I'd rather have this Stage in the deck. I do like that Mox keeping Windswept allows you to cast something like Night or Reclaim or Endurance. They went to 5 cards, which hopefully means they kind of tried to mulligan for a LED Echo line to refuel their hand after playing a few things. But even in a green-white shell, this is kind of exactly why I play the Leylines, because it'll give you something to do in the early games. Happy to get rid of the pit here. I mean, you can't ask for a better start, really, so very, very happy. The Windswept also allows us to get Lush if we want it. Hey, Mono, welcome. Legacy's pretty sweet. Okay. I'm pretty happy to fetch here, make this a 3/4, get the Lush, see what we're going to potentially draw, put this in the graveyard, and now I'm pretty happy just to hold up Reclaimer rather than attack. Probably go and get Urza's Saga, which we maybe took out. Yes, we did. Okay, that's cool. But Legacy right now, thankfully, has a lot of options to get in. I feel, at least. I think end step we're just going to get rid of the Lush for Flagstones, then try to build out our mana that way. One thing about Legacy that I find is really good, and I do hear a lot, is that most communities around the world will have players who have multiple decks and are happy to lend them out as long as you're playing the same event. Some are probably playing with proxies as well, which is always nice. Makes the, obviously, barrier to entry via the cost of decks a lot easier to swallow. But yeah, I think the sentiment for Legacy players is just they like playing Legacy. So the Echoing Truth could mean two things. It could mean that they have multiple ways or another way to deal with the ley line, or they're trying to go off through avenues other than using the graveyard. And it kind of just saying, hey, with the Reclaimer online and also the ley line, it's probably not worth trying to go off in the graveyard, because even if we Echoing Truth the ley line, I already have the sources in black to recast it, and the Reclaimer most likely has Bojuka Bog. Okay, that's like, it does turn off our own Mox Diamond here, but I think Ouphe, this is just a case where it does more against my opponent than it does for us. Doesn't really matter because Doorkeeper only really stops Chrome Moxen, which is stopped by the Collector Ouphe, but it does mean a fetch land is turned off as of next turn. But yeah, the ley line bought us time. And now we just have to try to get through one turn here. One tough thing for them is trying to create red mana for Grape Shot while also using ritual effects, because Chrome Mox, Mox Opal, etc. is turned off. Okay. What we want to do here is Green Suns for Sylvan Safekeeper. Now all our things have pseudo hexproof. And now they're down to 1, which means they can't fetch. That's very true. Yeah, I think I should have realized that this allows us to have more play in their turn. Yeah. Nice. Always good to get back from a loss. And yeah, Leyline and Deafening Silence doing a lot of work in those games. Just early disruption that allows you to buy time to find pressure, or more disruption in that case. Or in best cases, both in things like Collector Ouphe. Three mana, 3/3 with reach. Whenever you commit a crime, which I believe is target anything of your opponents, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. That's pretty cool. I'm trying to think what MTG commit a crime. Whenever you cast a spell or activate an ability that targets an opponent or their stuff. Okay. That's pretty sweet because that's like obviously Wasteland, Swords to Plowshares, Grist tick up. Oh, Scrib Ranger. Scrib Ranger commits crimes because you can target your opponent's creatures if you want it at instant speed, which is cool. That's pretty sweet. Who knew the little 1/1 flyer would commit so many atrocities on the battlefield? Jittery, welcome. Hope you're well. Yeah, crimes do seem pretty easy to commit, which is something I just said on stream. Look, I don't mind this hand. It has interaction in swords, it has mana acceleration, has one piece of the combo. There's a lot of good draws off the top. Also being able to lead on flagstones is pretty cool. Also just deal with an early threat from, say, Delver. How can Scrib Ranger be an uncommon? I know, right? Saga's pretty sweet. Okay. Question is, do I want my opponent to Wasteland me? If we do have the Saga, there's a world where I want to go Mox, pitch, probably Yav. Yav allows us to cast the Endurance a little bit easier, but we do have the Mox Diamond for that as well. I think we're just going to play it a little bit safe and just go play the Flagstones. It's got a lot of good value. Play the Mox. Pitch the Savannah. And then I will see what they flip with the Delver. Some versions have been running Spell Pierce, but some versions as well, Team 1 play like Force of Negation. Also, if they play a DRC, I'm probably more likely to hit the DRC. Bolt. Okay. I think in that case, I'm happy just to see if we can... Force. Okay. Pitching Murktide, which is pretty nice for us. One thing to note here is that I could play the Yav next turn and then just cast the Endurance. I could also play the Saga, but then I'm also probably wanting to Endurance the turn after. So I think we're just going for Endurance next turn, probably Sorcery Speed, and then Saga. No second threat is very good for us as well. So let's go for Yav. We could upkeep, could draw. I'm kind of keen to see if they do any sorcery speed stuff beforehand. We know one card is Bolt, so. Wow. I mean, if the Endurance trades with both Delver and Bolt, we are pretty happy. Yeah, that's fine. There's a Wasteland. Will it take out the Yav? No. Okay. In that case, I'm happy to play the stage. See if we can copy the island, and then maybe force the Wasteland, and then untap and play the Saga. Actually, I'm just going to copy the Wasteland. That'll force the Wasteland, I think. Cool. Crop is pretty nice here. There is an MTG Legacy Discord. There is an MTG Legacy subreddit. They're probably the big two. And then probably like, there's a few big, I think leaving a legacy, although the podcast isn't live, the Facebook group is still pretty active as they wanted to keep it active for events, which is pretty sweet. One cool thing. Actually, it's not that cool. I'm not going to say it. Yeah, especially Saga with the ability to get Shadowspear. Really nice in this sort of matchup. I always love when they try to hold back the DRC. So the question here is if I actually want to go for another stage off the Flagstones, which I don't mind because then we untap with, we get a mana off the Flagstone, so it replaces itself. There's a stage here. So then we have Saga stage, 2 mana. Saga, 1 mana, 2 mana with the Flagstones. So we'll get the Savannah. We'll then go and get stage. And here we will copy Saga. Play a land. I can actually play the knight here as well, because this one will just be on obviously 1. So 1, 2, 3, play knight. Nice. Even a daze there would be a little bit annoying because it does stop the Saga. But now having the knight with potentially a Shadowspear is pretty sweet. We also get to sacrifice the Saga to the knight, thanks to Yav. Make a token. Oh, they're going to try to bolt. We could save this with Sejiri Steppe, which I think is worth it. Just because they're on 2 cards. Yeah, I'm happy to now sack this Saga and get Sejiri Steppe. This. They're going to fetch. Okay. I mean, if it's another bolt, we're more than happy with that as well. Okay. This also makes it a little bit easier for us because we now just know we want to play these two. Hold these two up for the other Saga. Thanks, Boyd. A huge thank you. Hope you have a nice weekend. Hope work's going well. And hopefully catch you at Legacy soon. Ooh. Okay. So here we actually have the option. I think Shadowspear is just a little bit better. We now get to go Pit of Offerings, which is pretty sweet, and take out 1, 2, 3. Just to stop a big Murktide. And we're just going to pass here. Holding up Saga. To be fair, I think even in response to the brainstorm here, I should just make this because I want to make this a 4/4. And I should have played around like the 4th bolt. I do think that this card's cool. I think in this version specifically, I'd probably rather Bog. But it's nice to have the construct. We have the paths, which are really good. I'm not a big fan of Leyline, but like we can get rid of the Teeg, get rid of the Liberator. Library can be a little bit tough, but in a version with Shadowspear, I don't mind it. Safekeeper as well, I'm not a big fan of. Karakas. Like we are getting closer to that lower number that... Like I also don't mind Veil, but having the ley lines and just turning off a lot of their threats is pretty cool. And then probably just... I kind of like the library with the ley lines because if you keep a hand with one ley line and then you're able to not draw them with library, it's kind of nice. Also, if you're turning off their main threats, library does become better. I think I'm happy just to do a 3-3 split. Hey man, I do need to figure out a few of the smaller things. Like I watched a few YouTube videos on how to set it up and add in like your filters and stuff, but I think it could be a little bit better. But a big thank you for the recommendation, because I reckon it does sound better than the Yeti. And it's just nice as well to have a mic that's below me instead of, like I still have this set up. Where are we? But I don't know, I feel like a mic below your mouth is better than in front of you. But that could also be for how it's set up. There's actually a really good lands community. I'll quickly find it for you. It's quite an active lands Discord. And then also, if you're on Twitter, I would follow Ali at MTGO, Ali with double I, who I'll quickly also find for you. So here's Ali. And then the lands Discord can be found here. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Taking out the Liberator means they could have things like Grafdigger's Cage or Unlicensed Hearse, but I'm usually happy with them having that. Also, if it's not a leyline hand, it's 3 lands removal spell. Actually, 4 lands removal spell, 2 creatures. 1 land being Wasteland. Wasteland removal spell, 3 lands, 2 creatures. That would be optimal against this sort of deck. But yeah, I think with lands doing really well recently. Also, I know that someone recently posted on the MTG Legacy subreddit if like green white or green red lands is good. And yeah, someone posted Granham's guide to, I believe, being a landlord, hilarious, which he did, 3 back-to-back Saturday challenges, coming first in all with depths. We're going to keep it. It's a bit of a trap hand because it is a 1-lander, but hopefully this leyline does a lot of work. And we also have a lot of lands to draw into, which is nice. So what I want here is to see a ponder from our opponent more than, say, a delver. Okay. I'm also happy to actually cast the Mox here and see if they daze it, and then see if we can play the Flagstones. Okay, that didn't work, but that is fine. I'm also happy to probably play out the Reclaimer at this point. I don't want them dazing my 1 removal spell. So if I can throw something in front of them that they want to daze more than the removal spell, I'm pretty happy. Now they're kind of forced to deal with the Reclaimer if they want to attack with the Delver, which is nice. Like, can you imagine like land into Brazen Borrower? That would be pretty brutal. But you can see where like Leyline can give you some hands where it's pretty tough to... It had a plan at the end of the day, and that's why I like it, but... not necessarily a great hand to keep against Delver, which typically goes after your mana quite aggressively. Especially seeing that we did play Saga in game 1, that I assume if they're playing Meltdown, they're probably bring it in, and Meltdown's a great answer to Mox Diamond as well. Alright. Nice. In this spot, I'm actually happy just to fetch up a... Forest? And just play out Library. Because if they daze it, fine. But if it sticks and we get to remove this 1 threat of theirs, pretty happy. But also, the more damage that gets through from Delver, the less likely I am to draw extra cards with Library. But it does get a little bit scary. It gets to the stage where potentially we see a protect the queen strategy from this player, where they just start protecting the hell out of this Delver and, pitching Murktides to forces and dazing any sort of threat that could hit Delver. Because currently, it's a 6-turn clock. The boots are very cool. The boots are very interesting. Like 1 mana to equip, 1 mana to find with Saga, 1 ward as well just adds up. Especially in a deck like Maverick, I could definitely see it doing well. Swords is pretty sweet. I do just want to get rid of this right now, so we are just going to try to remove it. Nice. Play Reclaimer, which I could wait for it to be a 3/4, but I think as well just to make sure I'm doing stuff with my mana. If this gets to survive this turn, it's a little bit too good. I haven't played Preformal Wear, but I have it in decks. So I do think it's very strong. There is a thought of also taking them off the Trop as it's just a green source for something like Questing Druid. But I'm happy to hold up the crop as well for this Wasteland. Well, that's kind of cool. Now we have part of the combo online. Just a tidbit for anyone watching this who isn't too sure on like the optimal time to go after Dark Depths. So Dark Depths comes into play with 20 count or with 10 counters on it. Thespian Stage is a land that comes into play and then copies lands. So when you copy Dark Depths with Thespian Stage, because it didn't come into play, it's already in play, it has no counters on it. So what happens with the combo is that you copy Dark Depths with Thespian Stage, you then have 2 copies of Dark Depths, both legendary lands, you have to get rid of one of them. You get rid of Dark Depths because it has the 10 counters on it. You keep a version of Dark Depths which has no counters on it, which then triggers because, you know, you want to sacrifice it to go and get that Merit Lage. But then if they wasteland the stage, then you can't sacrifice it and you can't get the creature. We're just going to path this DRC in end step. I'm happy to use my mana pretty efficiently. Wow, they're just going to bolt us. Okay. That's, to be fair, that's 3 bolts now gone, which is good. I don't want to take ice counters off this either because it opens us up to not being able to cast a crop rotation in response to Wasteland. And honestly, they're also getting pretty close to just hard casting Murktides. So that's also a bit of an issue. But at least if they tap out for a Murktide, 2, 4, 6. Another Wasteland. It's pretty good. Unholy Heat. I think this is worth saving. And what I probably want to do here is just get rid of the depths, which makes this a 3/4 anyway. So the crop doesn't even have to resolve, which is nice. But I do like the thought of just getting the flagstones to then keep building up my mana, play a little bit around the wastelands. Thankfully, this also means we can keep the Sejiri Steppe in the deck for potentially something like a Brazen Burrow or Bounce. One other small trick with Reclaimer is if you don't want to use Sejiri Steppe, but you want to grow Reclaimer to a 3/4, but you need to try to put 2 lands in the bin, which is really hard. You can usually sack 1, but with the other land coming into play tapped, can be quite difficult. So another world is where you actually just Reclaimer for a second Flagstones if you already have one in play, and then you get to sack a land to Reclaimer and then also get rid of 1 Flagstones, which replaces itself, but then that's a way to get 2 lands into the graveyard in response to like a bolt, which is pretty cool. But yeah, opponent pretty unfortunate there. Like, didn't really draw a whole lot. They drew the mana for Murktide, but didn't draw the Murktide, so... Correct. Flagstones thankfully does trigger from an opposing wasteland. Pretty optimal hand. Pretty happy to keep this. There's worlds where I want to go Green Suns for Dryad Arbor turn 1, and then turn 2 just have a big Knight potentially, or turn 1 Reclaimer. Hold the Green Suns for something like maybe Gaddock Teeg if it's a combo, but that's pretty far away at this point that I kind of like building out mana. This also turns on like potentially Wasteland next turn plus Reclaimer. Hold up Endurance potentially. Having 3-drops as well, it's kind of tough to go Termin Reclaimer, but then not really know if you're going to draw into like the 3rd land that taps for mana. Like here, I'm pretty happy just to jam the Knight. We still have Endurance open if it's really needed. We have Depths next turn with Stage. Knight being a 4/4 against Bolt decks is fantastic, so the double fetch really helps there. Funnily enough, if they go for Bowmaster here, take out the Dryad Arbor, then our Reclaimers are bigger. But this is going to be some sort of combo deck. Relay. Okay, probably Tess. They have 1 card left. They go for Geysor, which is nice. So I'm never too sure if you allow this to happen. I think we just want to Endurance right now. I always get a little bit flustered with the timing of Guy's Will, but yeah, that's very true. Even like getting the pedal back, little things always add up. And we also get to close out this game quite quickly, which is nice. Thanks to Dark Depths. But yeah, Endurance is definitely becoming green deck's version of Force of Will in this format, which is quite nice. Against these guys' will decks, against sort of the all-in Reanimator, Ouphe spells, style lists. Nice. I could attack with a Dryad Arbor there, and then we have mana up, but I'm trying to think what the out could be. Yeah, obviously nothing, which is really nice. So again, these sort of cards are really good. Really want to be able to slow down the combo deck, but also pressure at the same time. So obviously Swords isn't great. Karakas and Maze I typically cut as well. Like Shadows, like I don't think there's a world where the lifelink of Shadowspear gets there, but potentially there's worse cards to cut. Happy to get rid of the Saga as well. Just a little bit too Ramunap as well. Library. Just the grindy cards I don't really want. The Thrulls are definitely interesting. It only hits Chrome Mox, which, to be fair, we do have a lot of good answers for anyway. That I don't mind something like this. Sometimes I cut down on Knight. That's a little bit too fair, but they are somewhat an answer to graveyard strategies, but that means we're keeping a hand without Leyline most likely. I probably don't mind having the 2 Doorkeepers. They can be kind of cool, so. A little bit awkward with Dryad Arbor in the opener, but we do have Leyline, and we do have 2 lands. Like a Mox off the top would be great. We can try to get towards Reclaimer, so I'm happy to keep this. I think the leyline should slow them down just enough. They might even start with a fetch that we could copy. Thankfully it's a green. Ah, no. Well, the leyline stops that, doesn't it? Yeah. Interesting. It says cast Ponder draws a card with Ponder, which makes me think they didn't shuffle. So here we just want to go Windswept and then Lush. I haven't made Merit with Tendrils in the stack, but I have definitely swords my own creature to survive a Tendrils. And obviously you want to do it after the Storm trigger. You don't want to do it before the Storm trigger because then adds onto the Tendril Storm, which can be a pretty nasty mistake. I don't play the pre-releases, no. The EV isn't there for me, and I'm not a big fan of drafts, so the enjoyment isn't there either. But it is a cool event for sure. I can see why people enjoy it. The plan here is Lush into either Reclaimer or... Ooh, Veil's actually pretty good. I think in that case, we just want to go the Echoing Deeps this turn into Windswept, and then we have Veil up this turn and Teeg or Collector Ouphe next turn. Veil also stopping bounce effects on the leyline is quite nice. The question is, they have cast a Brainstorm, so do I just want to fire off the Veil? Because we're going to untap, play the Yav Green Suns for probably Collector Ouphe, and then Teeg with the other Green Suns, which allows us to hold up Veil potentially. So if we don't Veil this turn, we're not Veiling until 2 turns after. Get rid of an Echo. Makes sense. Yeah, I think also protecting is worth. Crop's pretty sweet. So what we could do is play Dryad Arbor this turn, still have Veil open, and Crop if that matters. But then the following turn be able to Green Suns for 2 while also holding up Veil, which I actually quite like. I'm not a big fan of tapping out. Brainstorm, okay. The Lush has been kind of cool. I'm a big fan of these lands. Just having some sort of play over what you're going to draw is always nice. There's Thoughtseize. So there goes the Veil. They could... Oh, Wasteland's pretty good as well, but at the same time would have to draw into a Mox Diamond to be able to Wasteland and also Green Suns. I guess now because we don't have the Veil, we probably just want to Wasteland them off red, as that's Grape Shot, and then potentially Green Suns for Ouphe first, just because if we Green Suns for Teeg, we can't cast the other Green Suns for Ouphe. So I think it's Wasteland off red, go for Collector Ouphe, and then Bob's your uncle. Veil as well has been really nice. It does take a little bit of patience. I think Veil can make it a little bit awkward for Depths and Maverick players who are pretty likely to tap out most games, as you typically do. So it changes that a bit in that you kind of maybe want to take the extra turn to be able to untap with it open. I really like it in Turbo Depths because you have access to Elvish Spirit Guide. And of course, Lotus Petal as well, but nothing better than being tapped out and Spirit Guiding a Veil in response to, say, like a Tendrils or some sort of sack effect. Alright, so they did Brainstorm, but they didn't fetch. Hit the red. Green Suns for Ouphe. Now having two pieces is really nice. Next time we actually get to hold up Sejiri Steppe off crop as well, while also using Green Suns. And then it's going to pass turn, which is pretty unfortunate for them. Ooh, okay, so now we actually just have... They didn't do anything that turn, which kind of makes me feel like they have a bounce effect. So we have two real options. We have play Depths and then just hold up crop into stage to win next turn, or go more safe and Green Suns for Teeg for another layer. I like playing the Depths and just trying to close this game out as soon as possible. Don't give your opponent the time. Wow. All right. I mean, the best part here is that even if the Depths gets dealt with, we just have like Green Sun's Fatigue next turn as well. Did I just keep the wrong Depths? Oh, I did, didn't I? Look, we're just playing hard mode sometimes. Sometimes we just allow this to happen. Oops. In that case... I think that's the second time that's happened. They've used two brainstorms, 3 brainstorms, 2 ponders. Yeah, pretty tough spot for them. Pretty tough spot for sure. I think a challenge is typically like 8 hours, maybe a little bit more. Depends on how well you run. Hey, Harry, very cool to see you. Yeah, very fortunate. I'm just going to run to the bathroom really quickly. Now is a great time to follow the channel, if you're not already. You can also find me on Twitter and YouTube. Maybe that doesn't work. Anyway, I'll be back in a sec. Nice. Very cool. Alright. Would love to finish this off as a 4-1. See how we go. We went down to Jesk. Actually, it was BANT Beans with like Mentor. Got up against Tess, Grixis Delver. Tess, Blue Red, Rug Delver actually. And then, yeah, what looked to be another test deck. Hey, well, I'm sure in no time you will have a winning record. Just takes practice. But yeah, deck's been cool. There hasn't been anything that I've really missed. The only thing that I can think of is I would like black a little bit more just because it's easier to cast the ley lines if you do draw them. But otherwise the deck's been pretty sweet. I'd say like with Delver specifically, it's probably better to have the Bog. But I'm not one to be too scruffed about that. It's a decent hand if it has a green source, but I've definitely had my fair share of games where we've kept a hand like this and just haven't drawn the green source. I'm pretty happy to mulligan this. Much better. Really good actually. Pretty happy to keep this and probably bottom. It's probably between the Karakas and the Yav. I think it might just be the Yav here because we have the Mox. I typically play around with 61 in-depths because you have so many tutorable effects that it typically doesn't come up where you drew the wrong card, but having access to like 4 Green Suns, 4 Crop, 4 Reclaimer, 4 Knight. I typically treat Maze of Ith as the 61st card. Okay. Stage. I think here I'm happy to play the Forest and pitch the Karakas. Just a little bit shady on if they're on like a sneak attack deck instead of Delver. But I also don't just mind Forest Go. Means we don't hold up swords this turn around Wasteland, around our days, but I think that's okay. I also want to use this Green Suns for a Reclaimer, but as a 3/4 if possible. Okay. They already miss a land drop, which is pretty huge. Another Crop. In that case, play Stage, play Mox, pitch Karakas, swords this. And then there is even a world here where I'm pretty happy to Wasteland their Volk. It does set us back a little bit. I could also crop into Flagstones and then crop from there, which also lines up quite well with Reclaimer becoming a 3/4. I used the swords because I wanted to see if they would counter it and then allow me to potentially Green Suns or crop this turn. I do only have access to one green though, but that's fine. They're going to bauble themselves to see potentially if there's a land on top or not, and then maybe make a consideration for force on top of that. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. The Wasteland was kind of nice because it is the 3rd land into the graveyard for the Green Suns. But any land now off the top allows us to kind of be in that situation. Okay, they find a fetch land and also a mana source. Endurance. 2. I think in this case I'm actually happy to build out my mana, holding up crop in case they have removal for the Dryad Arbor, and then potentially moving towards endurance. I kind of hope their turn is Bowmaster. I really don't want to see another Murktide. A land here would be perfect before they Wasteland. Nice. So now we have crop and endurance open. So end of their draw, I'm going to Endurance them. I'm also going to Endurance using Savannah, Dryad Arbor, Mox, as the Forest is the card they have, or the mana source they have the least amount of control over. Petty Theft. Float a green. And then 1, 2. Cast Endurance. Force. Okay. One card left for them. Happy to try to save this one. Their last card is Daze. Yikes. I mean, at least we have a few good draws. Opponent's down to 0 cards. Reclaimer would be cool. Wasteland's not the worst either. But is Wasteland better for me? I kind of think it is, just in case we want white off the Mox. Like, it is kind of nice keeping a Murktide off the field. If they draw a land, then it keeps Brazen Borrower off the table. I think just for this instance, I'm happy to probably take them off the Volk, as it takes them off DRC. I'm not that scared about Orcish Bowmaster. And we have a much higher chance of drawing lands than our opponent. Nice. Alright, 5-turn clock, here we go. We're in a pretty unique position as well because lands or spells off the top are quite good. We're also going to hold this forest. I guess I could have played the forest and then held up Reclaimer. Go for Flagstones and build out that way, but kind of want to see if we can just get this knight down. Ramunap. I'm pretty happy to just keep attacking here. Three cards. Okay. It does allow me to go Mox, Pitch Forest, play another Reclaimer. This also gives me a white source for the knight potentially. This can't block either. So there's no point to keep it back for my opponent. Molten Collapse. That's pretty good. At least the knights are kind of 2020s. Okay. I think I'm actually happy to play the Mox because of the Wasteland. Try to play a knight. So they have force. They go down to 3. Oh, they get hard casted, of course. Yeah. Tough. Ley lines. Parts. Karakas. Safekeeper. Typically pretty happy with this. Because they're playing black, maybe the Veils. I don't mind trying out the Veils. A crop and a knight. Crop just a little bit too high on the curve, and then obviously crop against the blue deck pretty tough. The Wastelands with Days were pretty tough. But Delver's gonna delve. Pretty happy to keep this. It's Leyline into Forest Pass. Okay. Honestly, here I'm pretty happy to Wasteland them. Especially if they start with a Delver. Swords 1. Another land would be cool. So I could Green Suns hold up Veil. We still don't mind Reclaimer here. Play the depths. At least it's not a bolt going to face either. That can definitely change. Okay, so we know about days. So, end of draw step. Path. I really hope they force pitch days. Spell pierce. I guess we should just get rid of the days. Yavimaya, now probably our best draw. It just gives us a world to get towards endurance. I guess what I could do is Veil first and see if they do anything. That's probably the best one. Hey Shen, welcome. I think Veil first is actually pretty good. Maze is pretty funny. I am just going to Green Suns for Reclaimer again. And then play Maze. Two cards for my opponent. That's a tough one. Stage? Yeah. Yeah. Tough. Really tough. I felt like we had a bit more game against Delver, but obviously things can happen in non-blue decks. Deck was pretty sweet overall. Chasm's a card that I don't mind, but there are worlds where I'd like to have like another removal spell potentially. Saga was pretty sweet. There were games where Saga took over the game, which is great to see. I think Shadowspear is just a really nice target in this sort of deck as well. Maze didn't really come up. I think potentially with Maze in the deck, I want to have an extra Yav, just to make sure that we're tapping things like Dark Depths and Maze for mana a lot more. But yeah. There are worlds where it is and worlds where it isn't. I think like today, probably not. I think against like Delver, you want to have Bog to exile everything instead of just 3 things, but it's really good to test out. And I think I'll give it more games as well to actually see how it goes. But being able to hit like reanimate targets out of your graveyard without getting rid of everything, or tapping for colors other than green is cool, which is nice. And yeah, Leyline of Sanctity, which doesn't come up too much, but if it is there and we do have access to Pit, that's obviously very cool as well. I think Veil was pretty nice today. Thrulls didn't really do anything. The Teeg in the main deck was fine. We didn't really go for it game 1, but obviously a very small sample size. But I do like having one sort of bear in the main deck as a Green Sun's target for combo decks. And I like that Teeg doesn't shut off Mox Diamond, which is nice. So that's pretty cool. But that's going to be me. A huge thank you to everyone for coming in and watching. Big thank you to Mark for the raid as well. I'm going to see who else is playing. Looks like Tony Scapone's playing the challenge, which is nice. So we'll send you over there. But a huge thank you once again. A big thank you to the new followers and the new subscribers. Yeah, say big hey to Tony for me. Tony's a very good legacy combo player. And yeah, runs through the deck really nicely as well. So be sure to check him out. Catch you next time.